maybe we could give some examples then of some progress or some results that have been achieved through using this set of skills that you've picked up. So what are some of the things that come to mind where you're like, well, that was a pretty crazy scenario that person was in, and we were able to get them from here to there?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking of a strong, particularly strong symptom that came through in a case with a lady who I'm working with who has Crohn's disease, um, which is basically a gut illness where the gut doesn't absorb anything. It's so inflamed all the time that it's very difficult to absorb food. So they'll either have a chronic diarrhea state or just chronic inflammation in the body. And so she was talking and telling me her symptoms, and she's quite intuitive as well. But this particular day, she was very distressed, and I said to her, and she talks about her family history and about her mother and her father and the trauma and all of those things that she went through and her extended family. Anyway, I said, there was a lot of information coming at me. So I said, I just need to close my eyes for a minute to work. Really, it's to work out where do I need to go next with all of this information that's coming? What's important right now? And in that case, I closed my eyes and straight away I felt somebody over my left shoulder. This is where it gets really wacky. And it was like they were stabbing me in the back. And I said to her, I'm just going to tell you what I see, but there's someone stabbing me in the back. And I didn't physically turn, but in my mind I turned to look at them, and they kind of stood back like this, like they'd been caught doing something bad.
Oh, I've just got a serious shiver.
Yeah, I felt a little bit frightened at this because it was so dark and so hidden, which is representative of another miasm, a different miasm. And then I just asked, and who are you? Who is this? Whose energy is this? And it was her auntie. That's what I got straight away. And so I told her what I saw, and she was just like, whoa. She was like, I think her aunt was always jealous of her mum, and the grandmother always played her mum and their aunt off against each other, and all this kind of weird stuff. But what happened was I then thought, okay, what am I going to do with this information? So we have a book in homeopathy which lists a lot of symptoms and the remedies that associated with those symptoms. It's called a repertory. And so I thought, I'm going to look at the repertory for the delusions, because you could say this was a delusional state, which can also be a non-ordinary state of being stabbed in the back. And within that, there was a remedy called Rusk Labra. And Rusk Labra has all of these gut issues, and they have a delusion they're being stabbed in the back. And so I gave her that remedy, and this did not solve her entire case, because there's many, many layers, and we're working on mold now, actually, which is a big thing. But it actually kind of unhinged her from that trauma part of her story. Wow. So since then it's almost brought her into the present, so that now we are we're talking about her physical symptoms. We're dealing with mold and mast cell activation and these kind of things, but she hasn't brought that kind of onslaught of all of the family trauma and history to the case taking anymore. Crohn's is a very complex disease state, so we work in these layers and we give the remedies, and whether it's for trauma or the physical symptoms and all of that kind of thing, we try to kind of that to be all encompassed in the prescription. There's another case of a child that was getting croup all the time. And the mother was every time the croup came up, the mother would go into a real fear, panic, stress response. And I gave all the remedies that were indicated for this type of croup that this child had, and a fear and panic remedy for the mother as well. Those things, they helped a bit, but he would still get croup. And what we want to do with homeopathy is resolve this issue of why this illness keeps coming back. We want to get to the root of why it is. And sometimes that's not just in the in the physical body or in the immediate surroundings. And so I took the mother into a process where I got her to close her eyes. And she was talking about, I asked her about, what it felt like when she was really anxious when her child had croup. So we were talking about both of them. She was talking about burning, panic, racing. And at that point, as she's talking, I saw a woman holding a child surrounded by flames. This woman was in complete panic, and there were flames and smoke all around them. And so I gave a remedy called carbon monoxide, a remedy made from carbon monoxide for this child and for this mother, for both of them, actually. And the child has not had croup since that prescription. And the mother her anxiety levels have reduced immensely, because she was not only getting anxious when that son got croup, but when her other children also got croup. But that child, and he was getting croup from when he was like 1 until he was 3 consistently. And it was, the remedies were helping him when he had it, but we just didn't want him to have it anymore. So since this prescription, he hasn't had croup again.
Awesome. Well done.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was a good one.
And so I'm intrigued then. So this idea of the mother and the child surrounded by flames.
Yeah.
Could it be that was a situation that an ancestor of the mother was in, that's just in the cells, right?
Yep.
And it's now manifesting in physical reality multiple generations later.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. Or past life. There's actually a really amazing homeopath. She's French, and she does past life regressions, and she talks about a case that she was working with for years, and not really helping this client. And she was always thinking, gosh, I don't know why this client keeps coming back, because I don't feel like I'm helping her. So she did a past life regression, and the client actually saw herself in a concentration camp in the Second World War.
Wow.
And they went through all this trauma and what was coming up, and then she asked the client, what's the worst thing about this situation? And the client said it's the gas chamber. And so the homeopath gave her hydrocyanic cyanide, which was what they were using. And this client got better